Hi friends, welcome to Testimony Tuesday. Today I want to share with you something that God taught me recently as I was studying in the morning. And I was reading in John chapter 19, verse 17. And it's talking about Jesus taking up his cross, bearing his cross. And this was obviously the part where he was able to do it for a little bit on the way to Golgotha. And that was just the one verse that I was focusing on. So I was thinking about this time in Jesus' experience right before he was crucified. And it made me think of the verses where Jesus talks about us needing to take up the cross and follow him. And one of those verses is Mark chapter 10, verse 21, which says, "Then Jesus, beholding him, loved him," speaking of the rich young ruler, "and said unto him, One thing thou lackest. Go thy way, sell whatsoever thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, take up the cross and follow me." Now, as I was reading these different verses about, take up your cross and follow me, it's not just take up your cross, it's follow me. And the thought that came to my mind was, where was it that Jesus was going? Well, as I was reading in John 19, Jesus was going to Golgotha. He was going to the place where he was crucified, where he was put to death on our behalf for our sins. And the thought just came into my mind that taking up that cross really means following Jesus to his death. And for a lot of us, it probably will never mean physical death for his sake, but there is a much harder death in some ways, or rather I would say a death that has to come first, whether or not you're going to physically die for the sake of the gospel, but that is death to self. Death, like he was just saying to the rich young ruler, you need to give up your earthly possessions, these things that you're holding on to. And so as I was thinking about it, I was just thinking again about, what was it that would motivate Jesus to take up that cross, to give up himself and go to Calvary to die for us willingly. And, for us, it's a choice we have to make too. We don't have to die to self. And the fact that it doesn't just happen makes it harder because we have to choose. But that was the exact same thing that Jesus went through. He chose to go through that. And the verse that came into my mind was then Hebrews 12, verse 2, where it talks about looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. And it just all came together in my mind as I was thinking about it, that I often think about I need to deny self, and I need to take up this cross, I need to follow Jesus, I need to be willing to give of myself, give of my time, give of my desires to serve him. But I don't really think about how it was that Jesus was able to give up himself. And really looking at Hebrews 12 verse 2, I believe it was that joy that was set before him was what gave him the strength to say, yes, I'm going to do this, as painful as this is. And it hit me. It's like, I don't have that conscious realization of the joy that awaits God's people who are faithful to him. And when I realized that, it's like, you know what? I really need to spend a lot more time thinking and just teaching my mind, I guess, or just absorbing and grasping the reality of the joy that we're going to have. If we don't think about it, if we just think about the present, that joy that's before us is not really going to be in our minds. So I need to have a much more of a focus on what's before me, and that being the joy, the reward that God has for his people that is far greater than any suffering that we will ever go through. And if my mind is focused on that, I believe that it's going to grow. The realization of how wonderful that will be is going to grow in my mind and be just a power in my life to motivate me to do exactly what Jesus did, to take up my cross, to follow him, to die to self, to give of myself, so that others can know God, others can be brought to Jesus to receive salvation as well.